statement you make tonight to be the truth to the best of your information and belief.
I've already took it up there.
Thank you.
I want to hold it back.
Okay, thanks for making the room.
Minutes from the September 5th meeting. I believe all of us have taken a look at those. If not, if you'll take a quick look at those, if you approve, please let me know.
I've already noted Janet was not here last time.
That is correct.
No wonder I was so miserable.
We were all terribly miserable. I will entertain a motion.
I wasn't here, so I'd rather one of you all make it.
I was just quickly reviewing them. I'll make a motion that we approve the Board of Adjustment minutes for September.
Sonia makes a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Tommy seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? All approved by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same. There are none. Motion carries.
And that was with the correction.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there was.
I did say as written.
First application S-2024-37, David Floyd. Brett?
Sure. We'll do two quick things first before I get into it, please. First of all, if members of the board and Mr. Perkins, make sure your microphones are on, please, for old Studio 46. And also, I don't know that any or all of y'all have met him yet, but Mr. Holden Fleming is here. He's our new director. So welcome, Mr. Fleming.
Welcome
Holden,
aboard.
Yes. So
You'll get to know each of us very well. Welcome aboard.
But we'll go on and get into it for this evening. First application here, S-2024-37. It's 2630 Weisenberger Mill Road. This is a dimensional variance. This one's a little bit different. The language, as you see here, I put it's a variance to the floodplain setback as recorded on the plat of their lot, from 50 feet to 10 feet for the main home construction at said address. A1 parcel, just over 5 acres. It's on Weisenberger Mill, just south of Leestown. So here's the parcel in question. Again, zoned A1, you see Elkhorn Creek there to the west. Just a little overhead view to give you some more context to the place. Now, we're all familiar with the reasons of why we grant variances based on KRS 100. Essentially, we're looking to see whether there's special circumstances that apply to this parcel as opposed to others, whether or not strict application of the provisions would cause undue stress or not allow the owner to use their piece of land as anybody else would, or that the circumstances are a result of the actions the applicant has taken willingly, and also, that we're looking out for the health, safety, and welfare of surrounding parcel owners. Now, this one is a little different. It's got some restrictions on it different than most. This is the plat as it's recorded for this parcel. It's part of a multiple parcel division with shared access off Weisenberger Mill Road. As you'll see here, I've zoomed in and tried to illustrate for you. The blue line there is the approximate FEMA floodplain boundary. Now, the way our floodplain ordinance reads is essentially that no development or disturbance will occur within the floodplain without a permit issued by our floodplain manager. However, upon this plat, the surveyor took it upon themselves to also incorporate a building line setback that corresponds with the floodplain boundary. Again, our ordinances do not require that. We only simply state, again, no activity within the floodplain without prior permission and permitting, and also that in the A1 zone, it's a 50-foot setback from all property line sides. So, however, being as that it was recorded on their plat, becoming legal record, we do require a variance to encroach on the setback. All construction for the home will occur outside of the floodplain boundary, and I get a little more into this information here in a moment. So this is a graphic illustration of the approximate floodplain boundaries as it would be on the lot. And this is a site plan provided by the applicant as drawn up by their engineer home builder. Again, that dotted line on the bottom of the home site is the actual floodplain itself. The dotted line to the top there, inset, is across the top is the 50-foot required building line. And then the line that follows the floodplain is an example of the setback that the surveyor incorporated into their plat as it was recorded. This is not something we commonly see, which is, again, what plays into this restriction would cause, undue, restriction of use to this applicant as opposed to other people. We see plats all the time, all throughout the county, that have the floodplain designated with notes on the plat saying do not disturb, do not construct, etc., without an additional setback imposed. Again, just to kind of reiterate for you how things lay out, obviously the red outline there being the house, the applicant has stated there will be approximately 10 feet of separation between the home itself and the edge of the floodplain boundary. And I'll get into some more language regarding floodplain usage here. The home would encroach 40 feet into the setback as it's recorded, leaving 10 feet of additional space between itself and the floodplain. Again, this setback is not required by our ordinances. For this property and all others, again, the setback is simply 50 feet from all property lines, and with floodplain included on a plat, just that no disturbance or construction without a prior permit by the floodplain manager. The applicant actually has met with staff and our engineer, Ben Krebs. They came in and brought all kinds of information, explained the situation and how they plan to safely construct the home. Again, with the understanding that yes, floodplain boundaries are approximate. However, you know, when we look at the plat and our requirements and restrictions, we do go by those FEMA floodplain boundaries. The applicant has stated their home construction will have floor elevations at minimum of 2 feet above the elevation of any potential flood waters. They will also include floodgates, essentially, or flood openings in the foundation of their home to ensure that if waters were to rise, it would minimize the risk of collapse. Again, you know, the construction of this home site, just as any, is, you know, at their peril, but it will all occur outside the floodplain. However, you know, I have cautioned the applicant extensively about the floodplain itself, with the understanding that while the finished home may be 10 feet outside of the floodplain boundary, you know, construction does not always occur right next to the outside of the home. So the applicant has been made to understand that throughout the construction of the home that great care must be taken not to disturb or alter the floodplain itself. You know, if there was going to be any encroachment, they need to get with us or a floodplain manager and ensure that everything is done in the proper fashion. They have been advised of that. That is a stipulation in their conditions of approval as well, as you'll see noted in the packet. All things considered, staff is recommending the approval of the variance as it's laid out on the plat. All of our conditions of approval here towards the top are the ones we see all the time, but again, I've put in there extensive language given that yes, we understand the finished home will be outside of the floodplain. However, we must ensure protection of the floodplain itself as in respect to our ordinances. No disturbance or construction within the floodplain without essentially consultation and permitting by our office. You know, if anything changes, they need to get back with us. So,
Okay.
unless you have any further questions for me, the applicant is here as well.
Any questions for Rhett? Any questions for the applicant? Anybody? All right, I think we're good shape.
Okay.
Anybody else here to speak on this behalf other than the applicant?
I'm here to answer questions other than that. I need to test it.
I'll say, actually, I think we're in good shape. I'm going to make the motion that we go ahead and approve application S-2024-37, taking into account the staff recommendations.
I'll second.
Sonia seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same. There are none. Motion carries.
I will send you all of the morning submission of approval. You guys know it's
It's still there. It's like a condo in Florida.
Yes, should be. If Matt has any questions, you can call me directly.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
Thank you all.
you all are welcome to leave, or you can stay around for more punishment if you'd like. It's totally up to you. No problem.
Good
All right,
luck.
Good luck. All right, application S-2024-38.
Okay, this one actually is out on Browns Mill Road, address number 270, application S-2024-38. This again is a dimensional variance to the setbacks required in the A1 zone of 50 feet on all sides. They're asking for a variance to become 34 feet of setback for the construction of a 6x6 foot storm shelter. It's a 23-acre parcel on Browns Mill, again just south of Leestown. Overall, staff is recommending approval. Here's an overhead view of the parcel here. Just near the address number is where the installation of the storm shelter is to occur. Again, an overhead view of the property, just a little closer here. We're all very familiar with our language as KRS states, you know, for the approval of variances, and I will demonstrate further in this presentation as it regards to this application. So our red square here is an approximate spotting, and I've got a drawing supplied by the applicant as well. It'd be 34 feet essentially inset from that fence line, which is right along the property line for this parcel. As you can see, there is fencing on all sides. The trees aren't very grown up in this picture, but there are some along the roadside, etc. Effectively would screen the structure from any adjoining properties, things of that nature. This is supplied by the applicant, which is an overhead shot of essentially where the structure should be placed, as well as a picture of the type of structure they wish to have. So again, I just wanted to hit on KRS 100 as it applies to this application. In staff's opinion and review, it does apply to essentially the entirety of the section of Section 1 itself, that it will not affect the health, safety, or welfare.
Keep talking, I'm gonna step out. Just
Yes, sir. Of any adjoining property owners. And item B, the strict application of the provisions of the regulation would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land or would create potentially unnecessary hardship on them. Admittedly, Section A and C don't necessarily apply to this variance. I'll admit that. However, staff still concludes and recommends that given the semi-permanence of the structure and the location and the size, that the variance is recommended for approval. Again, it's a 23-acre parcel that's zoned A1. The placement of the 6x6 structure and the location will not be visually obtrusive or offensive to any surrounding properties as there is vegetation, fencing, etc. Approval of the variance would not adversely impact the health, safety, or welfare of anybody. And this application does meet the findings of KRS that we just hit on before, specifically just Part 1, Section B. Again, overall, we're recommending approval. No additional conditions of approval other than our standard 4. They got to meet all of our requirements and regs and come back to us if anything changes. And that is all I have, unless you have further questions for myself or the applicant is here as well.
I don't have any. Does the board have any questions? Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
I just have one, and it's really a useless question, but the lot that's marked on the aerial in the packet, I don't see anything like what is shown on the exhibit. Is it the wrong thing that's marked on the staff report? I mean, according to PBA, that is in fact the right lot.
Yes, it's right here. It's this little.
So everything's in that little inset.
Yes, the area.
Well, no wonder it
impact,
said.
so to
Okay.
speak. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Very
it's a larger parcel than you would think, just
Yeah.
based on, their work area essentially that I
Some of this is
highlighted.
in Fayette County too, to the rear, correct?
I believe so, being
Yeah,
south of
okay.
Leestown.
All right, I know
Yes.
where we are. Very
Yeah.
good, thank you.
Okay, yes, okay, and that's all I have.
Charlie, satisfied?
Oh, yes, I'm for a purpose satisfied. I just wanted to find
Anything
it.
you want to add? All right. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve file number S-2024-38 with the 4 staff recommendations for approval.
We have a motion on the floor. I'll second the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye. All opposed by the same. There are none. Motion carries.
Thank you. A letter verifying all that, with conditions of approval if you need. Okay, now that the real tough stuff is over. So we had some brief discussion earlier, and I've exchanged some emails with some folks. We are having a potentially continued issue of enforcement. This is that Turf Masters location out Frankfurt Road. I've received a number of complaints in recent weeks by some adjacent property owners, folks that pass by, folks that have been impacted by actions this user was taking before, specifically the burning and just the obstruction of view and property lines and storing things in floodplains. I will say that I kind of spoke to the complainants a little further, gathering more information. While they're not still burning material, so that's gone away, at least for now, there is continued storage of all kinds of vegetation and such, potentially within the floodplain. That's very hard to verify for myself, from the roadside. It's kind of one of the questions I wanted to ask you all is, we've taken steps of enforcement before on this property through letter writing and administrative review and bringing them back in, and I know Joe Kane met with them as well, and we're still here. Again, some of this stuff is just very difficult to verify from the roadside, so I was wanting to get with you all and Mr. Perkins on how you would like to proceed. This is just a brief overview of the conditions of approval that they were under before. Specifically, again, no storage or accumulation of off-site material within the floodplain, no burning, things of that nature. At one time, they were even directed to install plantings and fencing along the floodplain to denote and delineate essentially and protect the floodplain from storage of material. Based on these pictures I'm about to show you, it has not occurred. So this is pretty well almost the third go-around of enforcement for this property. Let's see here. Elise and Joe actually had given this user some conditions of compliance for this time last year up through October, essentially to remediate the situation. The only thing that I have evidence of that has stopped is the continual burning, and Elise did give them, I think, a date of, you've got to burn it before October and no more. And since then, stuff has still been accumulating, and it makes one wonder, how does he plan on disposing it? If he's not hauling it off all the time, and Joe spoke with him last August and was like, you've got to have the fencing installed by October, you got to have this stuff off site by October, this is what we need. And as far as the proof we see, none of that has occurred. So this is the western side of the project site. That's very recently, maybe as much of a week ago. And if you drive by, it's also still very visible from the road. These pictures were supplied by a concerned citizen, so to speak. And I will demonstrate, here in just a moment about where the floodplain does encroach upon the property. If you can see behind the barn, the floodplain actually comes all the way up to there.
I was going to say, is that the same barn that was there?
Yep, that's the
Yes.
one.
The back
Because
corner is in the floodplain.
Most of it is, I thought it was most of the barn was in the floodplain.
Well, I know.
Yes.
The
Yeah, I'll
back
show you
corner
here in just a
at least
moment.
is.
Right corner is
Right.
all that was outside the floodplain.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
all that storage is in the floodplain.
the fuel storage tanks are illegal the way they're sitting right there. I can tell you from a safety standpoint, he's not supposed to be storing stuff back there. He's in clear violation. It's not in question. Everything we told him not to do,
He's doing
he's
it.
doing it.
And he's not allowed to bring vegetation in from other sites. And there's
Based on
no
the
way that's
conditions of approval.
generated
No,
from
ma'am.
that.
And there are other issues that play more into the planning commission side of things, because there was a development plan as well, which is separate from you guys. There are other things that play into that, and I'll touch on it. There was not a space included on the development plan for storage of waste material, which could be approved by the state.
Because he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, and well, it's just there was commentary made by that in the memorandum provided by Joe, and, that was never established, nor was any permit for waste storage by the state issued. And to
I'm assuming he
demonstrate,
doesn't have a
yeah,
permit for
the
above ground
floodplain is
storage either.
pretty well inclusive of the property. This is just a little closer. And again, it's very difficult to verify for sure from the roadside, but one would imagine that debris pile is well into the floodplain.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, the building itself, which I can't speak to when it was or wasn't put up. I don't know if it's always been
Well,
there.
I'm sure that's the same building. I
It
just
is.
couldn't imagine that
Yeah.
it's the same building and he's doing everything wrong, except for the fact that we've had enforcement on this property before. We also had enforcement on his property
Out the
before
other
he
one.
went out
Right.
there.
That's
And
one,
that's
it makes
why-
it kind of the third go around.
Yeah.
This is why I'm bringing up the fuel storage tanks, because that was the problem out on the other one.
I walked around that property.
I know, I remember.
So
I mean,
what,
it's an intentional decision. He knows what he's doing versus
we've
what he
been
should
over
be
it so
doing.
many times, if he doesn't, he's got no business in business in the first place.
All right, before we
So-
go-
So what's the question?
Yeah.
I guess my question for you all is, given the steps of enforcement that have already occurred, continued noncompliance, how would you all advise or ask that we proceed as far as enforcement goes?
Here we go.
Obviously, Mr. Fleming is here to advise as well now, and I just wanted to touch base with you guys, because at the time I was just gonna write a letter, and going through the file and all that, it's pretty obvious that that has only gotten this far.
He's going to ignore it.
Right,
Yeah,
so
it's
that's
Well,
why I
but
wanted to come to your
If I might, I
advisement.
think we need to give him a cease and
Yeah.
desist
Yeah.
letter. Give him,
Yeah.
30 days or something, and then have a date after that where he's to appear here and to show that it's all done, or else have a due process hearing to perhaps even withdraw his permit to be there in the first place.
Okay,
Because it's, we've had people who've screwed up more than once, but boy, this is really just intentional over and over. There's just no way he's confused still.
I mean, the last time we gave him certain parameters for the boundaries, we gave him a time limit, he's broke that. I know Elisa's got them. He's broke all the
Oh,
regulations for the
everything must be done
floodplain.
by October.
So,
That's- yeah.
quite frankly, in my mind, we put a cease and desist on him. If he's not cleaned up by November, the next meeting, then he needs to stop.
You're saying he needs to appear at the next meeting
Yeah.
on the agenda.
With the approval that he's fixed all this, every bit of it. And if he hasn't, he's out of business on this site.
And I don't know what he's gonna do with all the vegetation, all the big piles of burn. 'Cause
He better not start burning.
Well,
That's exactly
as it
right.
states now, he's not even allowed to burn it at all.
That's
It
what
was,
I'm saying. Well,
he's not
yeah,
even allowed to
it was
have it.
burn what you have and that's it.
He
at
wasn't
the
even
time.
allowed
And he was supposed to
Yeah.
do it small burns.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
was like.
Well,
just
yeah, but
push
once it
that.
was gone, then he was not to bring any more. 'cause
Right,
But if I
none
re-
that's produced on site, that's all off-site.
Yes.
None
If I
that's supposed to
remember
be
right,
there.
he was supposed to burn up near the roadway on the eastern side of the property, out of the floodplain.
Out of, oh, absolutely, out of
It's small
floodplain.
controlled burns
Right.
because of where he was gonna have to do it. And then once that pile was gone, there was to be no more accumulation.
Yeah, the only thing he's gotten right's the address.
Yeah, he's supposed to burn in this generally.
No, I think it was on the
No,
other.
it was up on the upper
It was
top.
on the
yeah,
other,
he's
yeah.
this way.
Yeah, on the upper
It's
end.
supposed to be as far up that way without being in the flood.
And he did it one
Correct.
time, because I have to drive by this property every day.
Because everyone complained about it,
Yeah.
because he was doing what he was told,
Right.
or in theory.
All right, I think it's easy enough. I agree with Charlie. Put a cease and desist order. If he doesn't clean it up by the next meeting, then
You got
bring him in.
it.
Uh-huh.
Thank you very much, Elise.
Yep.
Okay, and then I believe all.
And by the way, I would, just for clarification, I would suggest, say the 30 days or something, whatever the date of the next meeting, but then have him come in on the following. That gives us a chance to give notice to the other neighbors, gives him a chance to make whatever kind of preparation of a defense he wants to make.
Fair.
He can get John Woodall back in here, and
Oh, geez.
and I assure you, John will be embarrassed, because he assured us his client was just meaning to do it well.
Yep, agreed.
Oh, no, you didn't use Obermeyer again, because that was bad.
Charlie, does this come
Oh, no,
from,
he's not, he's not
does this
asking him.
need to come in the form of a motion?
I would, yes, I would.
All right, I make a motion that we put a cease and desist order on this property owned by Turf Masters. I don't recall the address, Rhett. What is the address?
2461 Frankfurt Road.
2461 Frankfurt Road. The cease and desist order is to be a 30-day cease and desist order. He has 30 days to stop what he's doing.
Yeah,
Cease.
just a full compliance.
Full compliance. He has 30 days for a cease and desist order. Full compliance by the next meeting. And then 60 days from now, he is to appear here.
Okay,
Very good. That was gonna be my follow-up question.
thank you for
Just
putting that in the
clarification
record.
of the dates.
Oh, that's
So-
it.
A lot
Hang
easier
on,
for me.
hang on. Let me follow Robert's Rules of Order before I get out. So the motion is made. I need a second to that.
I'll second it.
Sonia seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same. There are none. Motion carries.
All right,
So who seconded?
Sonia.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Just an item of clarification for our records. 30 days from now is the first Sunday in November. And then after that point, the Monday is the 4th. And then the meeting that we have scheduled is the 7th of November.
Well, just 30 days to comply, and then
Yeah.
if he doesn't comply, then it's the December meeting.
Which
Yeah.
would be the 5th of December,
That's fine.
for clarification purposes.
Yeah.
So we will work with that one. Charlie, would you like to speak about our good friend and the trail cams?
Oh, I'm sorry, what now?
Our trap cam stuff?
Just, you may be getting Muddy Ford Road back for Christmas. No,
it's a
no, we're not
early
gonna talk any more
holiday
about it than that.
Are you serious?
It kind of ruined my
I understand
day,
that, yes, that's serious.
Even after the subpoenas?
Yeah. And it's in writing that all of it's stopped and removed, so.
So is the
But we'll be
buildings-
doing the same thing. It'll be a show cause and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
we really don't need to talk.
In that case, thank you for that.
I'm sorry for ruining your day.
Yeah, that did.
I apologize.
Okay.
Do not believe there's any more further business, unless you want there to be business.
No, in that case, I call the Scott County Board of Adjustments to adjourn at 5:25.